think about what this rehearsal is like. So like it starts off, Adrian's feeling hot. He gets his fan out. Okay, all right, we're good to go. Puts his bands on. He starts conducting. Then he's like, schwa, schwa, schwa. Do that again. Back to the schwa. Back to the schwa. And the other stuff.
Yep.
Trainer kid, come pop my
I wear
shoulder
a CamelBak
back.
backpack. I wear a CamelBak.
Like for
not every day,
hydration?
but I have a day. Did song. Because I just can't do, my brain starts decaying with that level of focus. It starts decaying and I can't always be bothered by reaching for a glass.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Choir Guys podcast, brought to you by GIA Music Publishing and Walton Music. My name is Blake Richter.
And I am Danny Gutierrez.
We are very excited to welcome our second guest to the podcast, Adrian Kirtley.
Adrian Kirtley has served as Director of Choral Music at Timber Creek High School in Fort Worth since 2019. Since 2019, all his choirs have received UIL sweepstakes ratings. During his career, 51 of his students have been named all-state choir members.
We repeat, 51.
In Tejas.
Wow. In 2021, he received the Maestro Award National Winner for leading a national choir of distinction. The Mark of Excellence recognition as a commended winner was presented to Adrian in 2019 and 2021. His Timber Creek Chamber Singers were invited to perform at the 2023 National ACDA Convention in Cincinnati, and then invited to perform at the 2024 Southwest ACDA Convention just last month. Adrian was most recently invited to be a guest conductor at Carnegie Hall for their summer concert series and will have his debut on that stage with choirs across the country and accompanied by the New England Symphonic Orchestra next summer in 2025. Please welcome Adrian Kirtley! Woo!
Yay!
You are here.
I'm always surprised that the bio I sent in to submit for things ends up being read. Every time I'm surprised. I need to put a couple punchlines in there.
Do you feel awkward about it, or do you?
Mm-mm.
You're like, I
can't tell if they use the bio as like a way to help people get picked for things or not. Like, I doubt it, but in my head, they read the bio, they're like, oh, this guy's legit. Let's pick his mark. Mm-hmm. But then they just read it at sessions, and I forget. So I'd be a little bit less verbose, I think.
You know, one of the reasons we wanted to have Adrian on the podcast was because we saw his Timber Creek High School choir perform at SWACDA. And I know, Danny and Adrian, they've been pals for a while. So why don't you talk about how that has happened?
Actually, it was really funny. So I was, as any choir director would do, you're just checking out like, oh, I wonder who the rest of the choirs were. And I just wanted to get a sense of the level of the other choirs. And I'm just like moseying along. Well, oh, Timber Creek. Okay, this should be cute. Wow, look at these outfits. They're nice. I like the chains. And then I click on it, and then I'm like, what is happening? So I was just and I obsessed about it. I obsessed about the choirs for like a 24 hours straight. Just keep listening to next thing. Like what is happening right now? So I was so moved. I was like, I'm just going to contact him. And then I contact him, and so this is crazy. So I contacted him saying, wow, choirs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm from Missouri. And then he's like, oh, I was just in Springfield earlier today. I was like, you were in Springfield? He was at Evangel, my alma mater, Evangel. He was at Evangel, and then I just couldn't believe it. I was like, we're meant to be besties or something. If he's in Springfield the day I contacted him earlier that day. So then he was just like texting it up, and then he kept like winning me over more and more once he started sending me clips of Barbara Bonney. And I was like, oh, because I love Barbara Bonney is one of my favorite sopranos of all time. And anyway, and then all the stuff, and he's super like in depth in his study and his technical understanding. And I was like, oh, we're gonna get along great. So yeah, no, I've enjoyed getting to know Adrian Kirtley for sure.
The first video I saw, he showed me because I have this little gold chain, and he wants me to bring it out more often, and I don't.
It's so stupid that you don't.
I don't care what you think about me.
No, this is the whole thing. And actually, I want to know what Adrian thinks about it too. So it was at MMEA, and he was accompanying, was it percussion?
Yeah.
Percussion. And he
I played guitar.
and he had this black turtleneck on, and he had a chain underneath it. I'm like, put the freaking chain on the outside, man. You got to rock that chain. And he was like, no, people are going to think I'm a jerk. I don't think you look like a jerk. You look like a
tool.
boss.
A tool.
Okay. Adrian, what are your thoughts on this? Rock the chain or don't rock the chain?
Well, now you got your chain out.
I just pulled it out like literally as you were talking. Let me just get both of them out here real quick.
So what do you think?
When it comes to chain or no chain, especially, was it all black?
I mean, it was a gray turtleneck with a
turtleneck.
maroon suit coat. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to our field, there's very little that you can't get away with these days. Like a chain is like the absolute last thing you'd have to worry about. Like when the kids see you walk out on stage with any sort of flair, they identify that as like, wow, our choir director really like showed out for us. Like this thing he put together is for us right now. Like that's awesome. And
you don't do that at all, right?
You know what?
You don't do that at all, right?
No, I'm very basic.
Yeah.
I got a suit at K&G a long time ago.
I did at our school dance. I did put on the turtleneck and the
But that's
maroon
a middle
suit coat.
school dance. That
And
doesn't count.
I got
Oh,
the
it does count.
I got the gold chain out, and I took a picture and rolled my eyes and sent it to Danny just to show him that I did follow his instructions for once. So here's the thing, like your choirs, when they all wear it and it's like uniform, oh, it looks so good. But I feel like just me like being a tool up here teaching, like I'm copying one of my students, honestly. I'm copying one of my students because I thought they looked cool, and so maybe I'm just embarrassed that I'm copying an 8th grader, but I don't freaking
You've
care.
called yourself Tool about 3 times in the past 2 minutes.
See, I feel like,
that's
Adrian,
wonderful.
you can pull it off, and I can't. And so that's why I hide it.
You know, if I were to show my outfits to the kids before I walk out, they probably would be like, "Whoa!" But they see it. They see it as I'm, moments before they get on stage. Like I bring the fit or whatever, and then I put it on, and they're just not expecting it, but they're like, "Okay," like. But it's on photo. It always seems more extra. But I will say I don't really when it comes to attire, I don't show up and turn out if I'm not the director. Like if I'm turning pages, I'm not wearing arm tails.
It might get in the way. It might hit a few
Or if I'm a
keys.
clinician for a region concert and there's 3 ensembles, if there's the top mixed choir with all the 18-year-olds and stuff, and then there's the treble choir who's like the 2nd tier, and then there's like the 3rd tier choir, and I'm directing the 3rd tier, I'm gonna wear more basic elements of formal attire. I'm not gonna be the super flared up 3rd tier.
We understand.
It's got to be like some sort of a main stage event kind of thing.
And we will talk about your main stage event outfits here later. Now it's time for our first segment, Choir News, and we have a few things to talk about today. First of all, Mr. Danny over here, he was chosen as one of the 4 finalists for our district's Teacher of the Year. Out of like 1,000 teachers in our district, Danny Gutierrez was chosen as a final 4 finalist. So congratulations on that.
Thanks. It's surprising and awesome.
It's not surprising. You've been doing some things. You've been doing all the things. So congratulations. Danny, what's your choir news?
The contemporary a cappella group at my school just performed at the semis of ICHSA. Now, we didn't place, unfortunately, but the kids did amazing. It was super artful, and the singing was good. So I was very happy. It was cool to see all the a cappella groups there, and super fun.
Well, I have to brag on you guys, too, because like this is your 2nd year going to any of the ICHSA stuff, and you made it to semis in your 2nd year.
Yeah,
so
we got a
awesome.
few top 3 votes for it too, just not from all the judges, but I think we did really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Adrian, what's your choir news?
So since I started at Timber Creek as the head director, that was the year chamber choir started, like the group that's all over the place. And that first senior class was about 8 people from the chamber choir, and then they were replaced by 8 more seniors. And so about every year there's about 8 kids that graduate. And now I'm 5 years into this, and I realized last year there were like 40 super talented kids that have all gone through the chamber thing at Timber Creek. And one year I'd graduate 4 sopranos, a tenor, and 2 basses. And it's never like a balanced group that graduates. But over the course of 5 years, it just so happened to be like a super balanced rock star. And I was thinking, dang, what if we just got together this summer and made some music? So last summer, I told all the alumni about it. And then the idea kind of spun out of control. Basically, when you have a really peak high school choir experience, you don't always go on to pursue music. You might make all-state 4 years, but then when you graduate, you might be an engineering major or something. So those people, they're cut cold turkey from the whole choir experience, but they're so skilled. So I made a group called Chrysalis, as in like the process for a butterfly, and it's Chrysalis Chamber, and it's ages 16 through 25. Unless you're a choir director, that's kind of like the caveat. There's a couple choir directors that also sing it. And age 16 to 25, and it bridges the gap between your high school choir experience to adulthood. And my kids wear purple scarves if they're in high school. And if you're in high school in the DFW area, by the way, you can audition for Chrysalis. And so but you had to have made All-State if you're not Timber Creek. So we had some All-Staters from around the area audition and make it. And then there's chamber alumni that are in college that wear blue scarves. And then if you're 22 to 25, you wear a red scarf. And so you can kind of wean yourself off. We'll meet for 1 week each summer. We rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we have a concert on Friday. And the music is like out of this world, so good. It went really, really well last year, even though it was super low budget. And the concert ended up being amazing. And the parents of kids, if a kid has a blue scarf, the parent will wear a blue scarf as well, so that when their kid moves on to a red scarf, the parent has a life cycle as a choir mom or a choir dad, and they'll graduate to a red pin. And so, because they're also cut cold turkey from the choir experience as parents, all of a sudden there are concerts all the time, and now they're not.
Yeah.
And so the group, if you just imagine the Timber Creek kids with their purple scarves, the Chrysalis is red, blue, and purple. And it's just like such a stunning crew. Like, oh my God, I love them so much. And the ones with red scarves are adults. And last year was the ground operation, no budget, but this year we have a budget, and there's like a board, and yeah, so it's June 3rd through June 7th, Friday concert June 7th, and they'll bring the house down. If anyone wants to audition, come on by. If you're a choir director, you're pretty much in, but about 50 people, really, really good singers. Just imagine all the chamber kids being adults.
So do you guys have like a website or anything that they can go to audition, or do they just need to contact you directly?
Yeah, just contact me. Like there was a website, but there just wasn't enough to put on it. It all of a sudden looked really, really mom and pop, because it was just like, this one. But if someone wants to audition right now, it's just basically word of mouth. I'm just going to post a bunch of stuff on Facebook, and it's an online audition thing. You just submit a video of By Night by Hagenberg, like an excerpt of it. And there's tracks for it, and if you can sing, then you're pretty much in. But if you're in high school, you had to have made All-State, just because there's like hordes of kids that want to be in it, honestly.
Now it's time to shout out our first sponsor, GIA Publications and Walton Music. GIA Publications is a family-owned company with more than 10,000 choral and instrumental editions in print and a wide variety of music education resources.
Walton Music, one of the catalogs in the GIA family, is one of the world's leading choral music publishers. With a catalog spanning over 6 decades and music from across the globe, Walton editions are performed by choirs worldwide, and they publish your music, Blake.
Do? I had no idea. That's right. And Susan Labar, the editor of Walton Music, who wrote this portion of our script, wants me to shout out one of my new pieces, John the Slacker, for tenor, bass, choir, and piano. I first heard this piece while attending a sea shanty choir gathering in our town. This is a crowd favorite at those events, and it gets everyone on their feet singing along. This is also a great piece to introduce to young TB voices. The repetitive phrases have simple 3-part harmonies that will make any young singer feel successful when sung correctly. And we actually played a portion of this song a couple of episodes ago because you sang it at GMEA, so thanks for doing that.
That's right, they did. You can find Walton choral editions at waltonmusic.com and music education resources and books at giamusic.com.
Yeah, and also GIA has a bunch of different books and resources, and one of my favorite books that they have is called The Melodic Voice by Alice Parker, Cameron Labar, and John Wyckoff. I actually got to go to Alice's house while they were essentially recording and sitting down and talking with Alice to make this book, and so I got to record all of her stories, and she's just a phenomenal person. She did pass away just back in December, which is absolutely devastating, but she lived a good life, over 90 years of a good life, and she's just a gem in the choral world.
I would also suggest checking out the James Jordan resources through GIA. Really great books on conducting, warming up choirs. They even have resources that go along with it, audio resources that you can use with your choir. So highly suggest checking it out. Thanks again to GIA Publications and Walton Music for sponsoring today's episode.
Now it's time for our next segment, Embrace It or
Erase It.
In this segment, we take things in the choir world and we say whether we're going to embrace it or erase it.
Embrace it or erase it. Choir warm-ups. 3, 2, 1. Embrace it.
Embrace it and erase it.
Ooh, clarify.
You need to clarify.
Please.
I haven't warmed up my top choir in like 5 years, but I'm not against it at all. It just, we've got other things to do, and they know how to sing. The top choir has a double block, so they sing right before it, and so they're warm. So I will I'll make a warm up for a specific thing in a song that I don't want to spend a bunch of time on.
When you say double blocks, can you clarify what you mean by double blocks?
Everyone who's in chamber, which is the group that was at SWACDA, that is their elected choir. They don't work on sight reading in there. They don't go to UIL contests. They just make music, but they all have to be in a primary core choir class based on their sight reading ability. And that's where they learn how to read music.
Now, how long are these blocks?
We're on a AB day schedule, so each class period is 90 minutes. The older kids have their core choir back to back with chamber, so they're in there for 3 hours doing different music. But there's freshmen in there who are in JV treble or JV men with the beginning kids learning how to read music as 14-year-olds. They just have glorious voices, so they're in chamber. With the JV kids, if you don't warm them up, you're almost wasting time because they don't really know how to go off the street and into class and sing automatically. They don't know how to just sit down and sing. They have to learn how to use their instrument. But a lot of my choirs that I teach now I have an assistant. We just aren't warming up. It kind of honestly kind of tires them out when they're singing rep that's so expansive. But it's important when they don't know how to sing or when they're building.
Yeah, as a middle school choir director, I'm going to warm them up, but sometimes I'm guilty of warming up way too long. And my colleague and I, we've talked about this a lot. Sometimes we warm up for way too long. I know sometimes we'll set a time limit for our first hour choir. We'll be okay, 4-minute warm up today. And Danny set an alarm on his watch for 4 minutes and we're done after 4 minutes or whatever.
For me, it just depends on the purpose of it. So I'm all about front loading things, right? So if I'm front loading some material or some concepts that I want to reinforce later, then by all means, I say take as long as you need to do if it's productive and it's on task. If it's mommy made me mash my M&M stuff verbatim just over and over again, then I'd say that's not very effective.
You
waste
that
time
crap.
for sure. For us, it's more so just getting distracted. I think we just get distracted. Like today, talking about blood types for a long time. That was called Distraction 101.
Using ChatGPT to connect different blood types to different voices in the choir.
Yeah, that's just called time wasting, which is also important. Here we go. Next
it was
one.
Beautiful.
Embrace it or erase it. Ready? Music stands in rehearsal. 3, 2, 1.
Erase it.
Erase.
I just.
I don't like it.
Adrian, what say you?
Yeah, I'm on the. God, I don't want to say embrace it and erase it every time, but there are exceptions.
But yeah,
There,
I mean, I embrace it sometimes, but like, what is your go-to? What would be your go-to?
None.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my go-to as well. So explain why you'd say none.
Yeah, none, because typically the music stands are not being used so that they can have great posture and so that they can keep their arms loose and free. They're being used to like hold their phone and stuff. They're being used to like low key kind of slouch. It just unless they're in performance mode, music stands for me are acceptable in a really long rehearsal where they're singing stiff as a board, and I just need more from them. Or if they're not watching, that's a big one. Like if they're just straight up not watching me and we're not memorized yet, I need them to see me and maybe not be memorized yet. It's really hard to do that when they're physically holding something, but typically they just want the stand because they want to like do this or whatever. I definitely don't use stands when there's chairs.
Yeah, well, I think another good reason to use a stand would be like during a recording session or something, and like have towels on the stands and like flip your music gently and everything like that. I've seen a lot of people do that, and I
That's
think
a good idea.
yeah, because that way you don't have to be memorized for the recording session, and that way if you have something to deaden the sound of the turning of the pages. I don't even I don't like using a music stand because I feel like it blocks me a little bit from the choir. And also, I feel like I have to stay in one place. Like, if I'm teaching, especially with middle school, I want to be roaming around. I have my iPad in my hand. I don't want to be like behind a stand the whole time. And then I noticed at SWACDA, you didn't use music as you were conducting, right? I don't like using music while conducting either. Obviously, like it's sometimes hard to have everything memorized, but like for a big performance like SWACDA or something, it's nice to not have that in front of you and just be able to become one with your ensemble as well.
Yeah, I need to. I get really, really crippling stage fright, and unless like I have to know for
I
sure.
don't believe
I have
this.
lots
I'm
of
sorry.
backbacks.
I don't believe it. You said trip calligraphy. I don't believe this. No, you're gonna have
Rewatch,
to. No,
rewatch. Oh my God, you would be stunned. Rewatch videos and see what happens when a song is over. What it is that I'm actually doing. I'm like, I just want to get out of the way. I would love to just run off stage, have everyone clap, and then just sneak back on there. But I hate the moment where I look at the audience is where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm back. I won't with the stage fright thing. I won't go for memory for the sake of being memorized. I just prefer to not have the music because my hands will hit the stand, like my arms flap. I have a giant wingspan, and like my hand will hit the music stand. It just will.
You move quite a bit while you conduct, just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to really back off, but I won't ever be memorized. I won't ever go off book unless it's completely subconsciously ingrained, like really, really, really ingrained. Sure. Which typically does just happen with an invited choir set because we work on it since August. But at stage concerts, I might have a piece where I use my music, and it's just because like I'm too nervous to guess where we are in the song or whatever. But in general, yeah, I require a lot of space to do what I do comfortably.
Okay, next one. Embrace it or erase it. Practice tracks. 3, 2, 1.
Embrace it.
Oh my God, embrace all the way.
Yes, absolutely. If I can make a more efficient rehearsal by students like adequately knowing the music, and of course you want to encourage them to sight read and engage and also fall on their faces, and I think that's totally healthy. But push come to shove, like I want to use the classroom time to make something significant happen, not say, here's the note, make sure you're doing the note. Like, and given, of course, like I said, you want them to sight read, but what are your thoughts?
I have noticed that if I want to be a little lax on the resources I provide them, then I am increasing the effort required of me in rehearsal, and I'm decreasing the overall quality of the performance. Like that's just what that is. So if I create a ton of resources, the more resources I create for at-home practice, not just practice tracks, but like a practice plan. Listen to section A 3 times without singing, then sing along with the lady, section A, then record yourself, section A. Compare for glitches. If you make a glitch, rehearse just this section, like really, really break it down. And if I want to go through all that, then I will reap the rewards, but that stuff takes time. So it has to be worth it.
I was almost about to say erase it just because of all the time it takes to record them. Because like my plan time, I have the junior high band practicing in the choir room, so it's not an easy time to be able to, it's not possible to go out there and record because the band's playing, which I'm fine with it being out there, but it's just, I don't like doing it after school or at home or anything like that. But it's so beneficial. So, I mean, if you're able to like pay for people to make the practice tracks for you, ooh.
We're not going to say your name unless you give us an endorsement, though. You know who you are.
Endorse us.
I got a guy, and we have not done chamber, chorale, like my top choirs have not done a single piece since 2021, fall of 2020, without having this particular guy make us a track, and they're phenomenal. And I just load them up with requests like measure 2 rubato, measure 3 beat 2, add a metronome tick because it's a half note and I want them to feel that upbeat or whatever. And he locks and loads it, and it's $50 per song. Like I spent more on Raising Cane's for 3. And it doesn't matter how hard the song is. And then I've got some good singing kids. Now, when I say making practice tracks, I mean like I have him record the piano, and then I'll slice and dice it in GarageBand, and then I'll make like section A, 50% speed, 75% speed. But I'm never singing. My singing voice is not something I really want the kids to model. Like a lot of them sing a lot better than I do. So I'll have a really great singer record them with me, like a good alto that I have, or a good soprano that I have, a good bass, and then someone else plays piano. And I'm just kind of like a mayor of a small, complicated town.
But it's a fun town. I would like to be part of that town.
In fact, it's called Fun Town.
So now it's time to shout out our next sponsor, Endeavor Music Publishing. Endeavor is dedicated to publishing the best in new and innovative choral music, and to the idea that composers should earn the majority of the sale of their music.
That's the great thing about this company. Royalties for Endeavor composers are over 5 times the industry standard. So you can trust that your purchase supports the artist who created it.
Endeavor is currently seeking out emerging talent and established composers. So if you are interested in getting one of your pieces published, make sure to visit their submissions page on their website.
Before finalizing the rep for your next concert, make sure to go to endeavormusicpublishing.com and peruse their new titles.
Now it's time for the main portion of our episode where we start talking to Adrian about all of his good stuff. Danny, over to you.
I've been dreaming about this moment for some time, and now it's going to happen for the world to see, which I'm happy about. Adrian, I'm going to keep pressing you for information, and I'm just going to ask you question after question after question, and my goal is to get to the root of it. I have my theories on the matter, and I think the problem is these questions will kind of touch on it, but it doesn't get quite, it's going to be impossible to get quite to the core of the situation, because really, I think what it comes down to is Adrian is an extremely process-oriented person, more than probably any choral director I've ever met. There's a process for everything. There's a process for singing. There's a process for note acquisition. There's a process for practicing. There's a process for your view on tone. There's a process to sight read. There's processes for everything. Now, for people that aren't process-oriented, what needs to happen essentially is Adrian needs to write a book on his choral processes. That would be a good seller. Put all the choral processes out there. I think would be great because he has processes for everything, as you're about to find out. So here we go. Tone. Your choir is singing very well. Very, very well. Like Stupid good. When I say stupid, I mean like bad, like Michael Jackson bad, if you know what I mean. So what is your process, Adrian? How do you get the singers to sing with the exact tone that you're looking for?
I thought a lot about this. Um, I don't really know where to start, so I'm just going to start. I think uh, I'm going to start with what I know my kids do that the other programs don't do for whatever reason, and not that they should or couldn't, maybe resources, this, that, and the third. But one of the big things that my kids experience in my choir that others don't is an enormous amount of time with me, and an enormous amount of music. Like you'd be stunned to see how many pieces we learn and then don't perform, and then we do something else. This week we've learned like 3 pieces, and they're just so stunning and cool. And like one of them we'll do in concert. But think of if you were trying to learn how to drive a car, but you only ever practice, uh, you know, 45 minutes on the same street, and then you add a second street, and then a third street, and then those 3 streets are the streets you practice driving on for an entire semester. You're just not really getting the nuance. For starters, find ways to get your kids. This is aside from technique. This is just like my kids have more at bats. That's baseball jargon. They have more at bats than most kids, because I'm constantly finding ways to pull the uber talented ones into some sort of elevated experience from the regular class, and get them coming in after school for this ensemble, and then also getting those kids to double dip in some other project I've got. Hey, let's do this choir. The kids in chamber are like a lot of times in like 4 choirs, and 2 of them are classes, and some of them I'm just doing for fun. A couple of years ago, I made a choir called the Early Birds, and it was we're the Timber Creek Falcons. They meet in the morning, and at 7 a.m. Once a week, and they didn't even compete. We just made amazing music. We recorded amazing music in a library, but it takes some kids from here, some kids from here, some kids from here. And while most kids get their 1 class period of however long that class period is, most of my kids here on these stages are in multiple choirs. They're singing hours and hours and hours and hours. So it's kind of like the progress you'd make in college just from at-bats.
So just to clarify, you're saying, so one of the things you're saying is they're putting a lot of time into singing. So for instance, if they're part of, let's say, the chamber choir, they have to be part of another choir as well. So that's an hour and a half every day at bare minimum of what they're doing, or at least like a 3-hour session. Then one, I guess, on the other day, they're not doing something, but they're putting in a lot of time into it. The other thing that you said was, so they're specifically spending time with you and understanding that what you want from them in terms of tone. So that's something. The other thing you said was literature. You're giving them a lot of different views at different literature. So you said you'll work on 3 pieces, and maybe 1 you'll put into concert. So the other 2 pieces, is the purpose of that to teach whatever concepts you want them to learn?
I just kind of like the songs. It's like I like the songs, and it's time. We finished a season. We just performed something. And now I'm like, okay, you guys are going to die with this piece. Like I did it with Human Like. After I heard your choirs do it, I'm like, y'all are not going to believe this song. And then we just started it. And there's things about that song that I didn't pick the piece so that I can work on these things. But getting good at singing requires malleability. And you can't become malleable and bendy and multifaceted if you're only working on 3 pieces. So, and not all pieces are for performance. Like it's okay if you just work on something, but doing tons of styles. And
so you're saying that the different styles allow students to have a different facility over their voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're in a choir where the director, I see this so much when I judge contests, you'll have a director who loves Stroop, or they love Hagenberg, and you can tell that those are the songs they sing all year, or they love Palestrina or something. And whatever it is that the director has focused on for his entire career or her entire career, that's what their kids do. But then when you take the kids who only get Hagenberg and you ask them to do Hogan, it becomes out of reach almost if it's the only Hogan that they've done all year. But I will say at the foundation of every school year, no matter what pieces I love or the new songs that I hear, I am very, very deliberate about always starting the year with a hard piece by someone in the era or the style of Bach, Haydn, Handel. Melismas are our friends. The kids get so good at singing when they're doing melismatic material, and Mozart is so excellent because you can take these little moments. Do you know Misericorias by Mozart? It's like Canta boinere. The art of like a sforzando, like a strong onset with a little wiggle after it. Ba, ba, happens all the time in this music, and you can work on things like vibrato. It's hard for a kid with no vibrato to just sing Hogan when they haven't had an opportunity, or to like sustain a really long, gorgeous Hagenberg long note with vibrato when they haven't practiced doing vibrato on short bursts of notes. And it's so easy to get vibrato kicking into gear when they're 14 years old and they're doing a very hard Bach piece, because you can be deliberate about the markings and put certain accents in there and be very specific about vibrato. Also, people, oh my gosh, I hope I wasn't too loud. We need to stop being afraid to talk about and eliminate the fear of addressing vibrato. Vibrato is just like the marcato or tenuto or staccato or crescendo. It's something when a kid has developed one healthily, a lot of times it happens when they're like 13, 14, 15. Once they get to like 19, 20, if they don't have one, they're probably not getting one. That's from my experience. But you can experiment with vibrato. And then once they have a vibrato, be brave and, ignore it if a voice teacher says, I don't want my kids singing straight tone. It's ruining their voice. Get rid of the voice teacher straight up out the door. Like, I can't stand it. Vibrato is a part of expression. And one of the things you'll notice if you listen back to my choirs, first of all, in terms of conducting, they don't do vibrato unless I signal for it.
What is your signal for vibrato?
Sometimes it's there's a few, like for the start of the Bach Kyrie, they have like this for one is just straight tone. So when I want them to, like, the song is Kyrie, Kyrie, it's like that big massive B minor thing. I'll breathe with them a straight tone hand, and then so my hands on here, and then when my knuckles curl, I'm trying to like mirror image. When my knuckles curl, they vibrato. And you'll see all the time. Watch back on the things. Whenever they're releasing a chord, my hands will be flat, and they're seeing this big, loud and part of the stunning thing with my choir is that they are always locking on chords before they're letting it wiggle. So, bah, and then before the cutoff will include a knuckle clench, and then it's released. So, bah. God's gonna trouble the water. He's gonna trouble the water. Come down and wait in the Jordan. Hurry down before it's too late. Oh, come and see the Lord God, for the day is dropping closer to sunset. Come down to the Jordan and just wait for He will trouble that water. Come and see the Lord God, for the day is dropping. you'll see that happen. And then sometimes if it's like a longer, sweeter moment, my hand will be smooth, and then they'll see my hands trickle like this, and they will have a little vibrato. And then right before a big chord like this, and I'll kind of shake my hand straight up, big time. I'll even go like this. And they can gauge that. Do you want a big bombastic vibrato? Do you want a straight tone? And then you want the vibrato to just be a part of the tone. And that's the thing. We'll work on. And when my fingers curl, it's all over. Every time I have vibrato, it's been signaled. A lot of the tone that you're hearing is vibrato management, vibrato awareness, vibrato mastery. Like, these kids are so good at having like 15 ways of delivering vibrato. And in Baroque music, they'll have the attack, and I draw the sound on the board. I'll have a giant red star, and that's the attack. And then right after, in Baroque music, there's a big wiggle, and then there's a small wiggle after. And sometimes when you're hearing their tone, it's like a severe awareness of vibrato. And then when the vibrato is cleared out and they're just thinking valve, that's the vibrato being stripped from it in that moment, and them just riding the wave of their own sound is a lot of the tone that people are kind of wrapping their heads around. So I'll draw vibrato on the music.
So is the reason why you're not, let's say you're not doing that tone work, so you could do it on solo literature if you wanted to, right? Because you can find melismatic passages in solo literature. Like, you could take a choir and say, all right, we're going to work on this Bach solo piece, or we're going to work on the Scarlatti thing, and we're going to work on this and that. So is the reason why you're primarily, and for me, logically, it just makes sense. Like, okay, let's simplify the process and really isolate the technical things. But I think because you want to do it in context, and you want to do it, and hearing your words on the nuance of vibrato, especially, choral music is going to lend itself more to that, I'm assuming. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, when it comes to solo rep, I'm like, even if the song is not at all meant to be legato, when it comes to solo rep, if I'm working with a kid on all state audition or something, I'm a big proponent of like legato all the time. Even if it's like an excited piece, if they have an awareness of legato, their tone's just going to be freer. With my, like, getting back to tone specifically, there is a heightened awareness of what vowels should be sung at what time, and vowels are so much simpler than we let them be in English. But when you're hearing my kids singing like what would be like a gorgeous tone, quote end quote, it's really maximizing the vowel on a certain note. There's vowels that knock a tone down so many pegs, like an vowel, just straight up like month of now is the month of Maying. It doesn't occur to people that like the vowel doesn't really ever have to be sung in choir. Like it will sound like an vowel even if they're doing like every vowel that we do is converted into a relaxed like this vertical thing, and then the specificity of diphthongs, like what is the diphthong? Is it an oo or is it an o? It's almost never oo unless we're doing some sort of Swede folk song.
So how would you show them specifically? This is the vowel. This is the diphthong. How would he do that? How do you do that?
I know the answer. I know the answer, and I hope you have it with you.
It's a leading question.
I hope you have it with you.
I promise you, like it's
yes. Okay,
it's always next.
The vowel glove.
He puts that on his chain when we're not around.
I also have I have a vowel vest, but it's warm, and the vowel vest is a little bit more convenient. I just wish it was like filled with ice or something, because it's so warm. But there isn't an eval on the music, and that we convert every piece to pure sounds. And over time, they sing, like we're doing Under the Willow by Labar. Oh my God, I just love it so much. And the words, it's a women's piece, fair, fair and golden hair, and it's fair. And it's literally fair. It's just, they do fair, fair, fair and golden hair. Golden is just golden hair, but they're gonna want to do hey, hey. And there's just never a song where I have like an like.
Are you capable of doing this for any song? Like if I said a random song, could you do the whole thing? All right.
Like, do you have to practice all the different shapes that your hand makes?
Yeah.
All right.
If
let's go
quick
simple.
Song,
let's go simple. Row your boat. What would that look like?
Row. So row. I just wouldn't do a diphthong. They're gonna want to do row. Row. Here's the ooh. Can you even see that? Yeah. Row, row. They don't need to think of the O as diphthonging. Just row, row, row your boat. They just row, row, row your boat. And the yo could probably be a schwa, which is just like this.
He knew to do that, right? He didn't even think about that stuff. He was like, bam.
It's like gang signs, but choir gang signs.
This symbol right here, to find this, I asked my partner to, I drew a symbol on the board. I'm like, tell me what this symbol looks like. I was trying to find a symbol that looked like you just got your wisdom teeth removed, you're laying in the hospital bed, and you can barely, like, what is that? And so I draw a shape on the board, and he's like, I think that's, I'm like, and I do another one, and he's like, I think it's, I'm like, and hundreds later, this symbol, he goes, I think it's, and it works. So this is like, this replaces so many things. It's actually a t-shirt sleeve.
Okay, so I just want to clarify something to the listeners out there. We were talking about what is the secret behind Adrian Kirtley. I think what you just heard is really the core of it. It's this obsessive nature on how to get what needs to happen, to the point that he's willing to have this long conversation with his partner, going through sound after sound, and his partner's not a musician, sound after sound after sound, to get him to do the right one. It's that level of detail that he's willing to get into, that not many can take it to that level.
Well, we don't have to get into this because for the sake of time, but you talked about your conducting, and the knuckles was the vibrato. You like start each year, or like whenever you have your young singers, you like have a camp where you explain every single symbol of, or like every single conducting gesture, right? And you go like super in depth, so that way you are communicating so effectively. There are some conductors who are like minimalists, but I would say you are not, because you want to communicate very effectively through your conducting. And I think, that's why your choirs are so good, is because of your obsessive nature over these different things, which is great.
Yeah, the conducting patterns are so helpful. Like at the core of things, I'm very grateful that I know what a 4 pattern is. Okay. But the 4 pattern does not, in its purest form, it does not inspire children to make what sound you have in your head. Like, I figured out, if I contort my body and my arms and my hands in a certain way, and I tell them what I want them to do. Like they won't always, if I'm doing this, they're not just going to know like, oh, that means vibrato. You do have to say like, okay, this will mean so-and-so. I mean, for example, my old assistant director she was my assistant director for 3 years, and she sings with the Santa Fe Desert Chorale. She's nominated for 2 Grammys, and she sings with Conspirare, and she's on all these albums for all these pro choirs. She has the ideal female sound. Like she's what I want every kid to sound like. The perfect blend of opera singer and whatever. Her last name was Suver, and an S in sign language is like, I don't know, this, like a fist or something. It doesn't really trigger, but this is R and Suver. So when they're singing, they all know what she sounds like, because they were taught by her for 3 years. and they can mimic her. You know, I'll be like, do a row, row, row boat, but pretend to be Suver. And they'll be, you know, they're making fun of someone, and it's always brilliant. Like when they're making fun of opera singers, I'm like, yeah, that was good. Can we just do that again?
You're like, joke's on you. Okay, you learned how to sing by that.
That was amazing. So if it's a song that I really need them to lock in and like do all of the right pro singer things, I will do this multiple times in a concert, and they'll be like, oh yeah, super on this. I just do, I cross my fingers. So this isn't like directing, but it does trigger something. And I call this ham sandwich directing. Like I do this in the sight reading room. The hand sandwich directing is what I do in the sight reading, because I'm focused and we're not being judged on like musicality, really. We just have to be correct. But my kids will sing whatever it is that I do, and most kids will. I would say like 90% of kids will give you what you give them. And so if you're within a box, they will stay within a box. If you try to, I dislocated my arm in a concert 3 years ago.
Not surprised, honestly.
That was the beat 3 that took my arm out of its socket. I literally went to, and it flew out of my socket.
Oh. So wait, how did the piece conclude?
The song ended. I had to dress the choir, and I did like.
Wait, so you just kept conducting like that?
With my other hand, I was like really, really hurting.
And what was your other hand doing? What, you was just dangling?
Mine was, yeah, it was just dangling.
I'm assuming there was extreme pain involved with this.
Extreme, yeah. There was a kid who's a trainer. I told the kids in front of the audience, I just look at my arm. She said, in order to prevent unnecessary flailing with my arms, because I want there to be variety, but my, I work out, and my hands don't weigh enough for resistance, basically. And so I have, and I wear them frequently, I have weighted forearm bands, like they've got 5-pound metal plates in them. And I'll direct with them in the rehearsal, and it forces my arms to have control and resistance so that I don't do things that are frivolous. Like I want things to have a purpose, but my arms don't weigh enough for my shoulders. That's just a fact.
You make conducting a sport. So
I'm just trying to think about this rehearsal. Think about what this rehearsal is like. So like it starts off, Adrian's feeling hot. He gets his fan out. Okay, all right, we're good to go. Puts his bands on. He starts conducting. Then he's like, schwa, schwa, schwa. Do that again. Back to the schwa. Back to the schwa. And the other stuff.
Yep.
Trainer kid, come pop my
I wear
shoulder
a CamelBak backpack. I wear a CamelBak.
Like for
not every day,
hydration?
But I have a day. Miss song. Because I just can't do, my brain starts decaying with that level of focus. It starts decaying, and I can't always be bothered by reaching for a glass. So I'm grabbing a snout. I haven't worn it like in a couple months, but I managed my schedule better this year. So I'm not always rehearsing 14 hours a day, but no, I will wear a CamelBak backpack and a valve vest, and I've gotten my fan blowing, and I'll have an LED doing like dynamics on the background, and
I'm sorry,
digital pianos only.
Yeah.
I don't do
pause.
Pause.
What, you have an LED doing dynamics in the background? Does it just sense what you're doing or sense what should be happening, or you have it programmed like with lights?
Yeah, it's there's an LED behind me that would do it, but my phone is doing the camera. But yeah, I'll program. There's like a slider, and like red is loud, blue is soft. It's a good tool for when there has to be a crescendo that takes place over a couple pages, because they'll crescendo too soon or something, and I can't really deliver that much of a gradient, especially when they're learning a song. So I don't do it all the time. It's really like a very specific crescendo that takes place over time. But here's kind of what the tone thing. Like I record every rehearsal. Today I got 6 hours of rehearsal recordings. On my way home.
How are you recording the rehearsal with a recording
with a
equipment?
phone on a tripod.
With a phone. So your normal phone you're recording it with. And then what do you do with
And,
that 6 hours of recording? What do you do with that?
like for today's recordings, I've already put it into a video editing app. It's definitely going to be what takes me out on the road. I'm doing too much while driving. I'll be clear, but I edit them and I take the good moments and I splice them, like, you know, in an hour and a half of singing a song, it'll be an amazing moment with this measure, an amazing moment with this measure, and I will take out the stuff that wasn't good first. And then that's for me. But then I take the stuff that was good and I compile them into a song. So the song that we worked on, ending at 3:00 today, that rehearsal, by 4:00, they all had a compilation video of the highlights from that rehearsal. And what happens is, it's kind of manipulation, but what happens is they are obsessed with the recording. They're just texting back and forth and they're listening over and over and over and over and over, only to the good moments. And then when they get back to class, they're hyper aware of what made them feel so good in that recording. And then on my end, I'm listening to the things that are horrendous, like things that I didn't hear when I was in the room, but like weird intonation things. And then I'll zoom in, like, who is that? And then I'll take someone off of a note and put them somewhere else. Too exposed. She's not always hydrated. I'm just going to move her. And then I have this bulleted list of stuff that's very, very, very specific. So rehearsal starts.
But you're not sharing that information with students, though. Like you're not sharing that with them. You're just having that for your own reference.
No, because I want them to be obsessed with the song, and that's part of the thing. Like when other kids are going home and remembering a rehearsal. They might remember the girl sitting next to her. Like if you're in the alto 1 section, it just sounds like a bell tower. Okay, you don't know what you're hearing. But when they get home, a lot of kids are just doing other things, and it's a memory. But my kids are reliving the highlights all night long, and then they come with those things fortified. Like they listen so much just because they like it. But if I send them the bad things, they're going to get nervous and weird about the song itself, less excited to sing. Kids don't practice things they don't sound good on and they don't feel pretty about. So they were like, can we have the recording from rehearsal today? And if there was not a moment that I want them to hear 500 times in the night, then I will shamelessly send them a recording of a professional choir doing on YouTube. Absolutely, here you go. Here's the one you'll listen to until you're ready.
Full disclosure. So this is such a healthy way of going about this, and I'm just going to be honest with you. This is not the way I go about this, but I like your way a lot more. So I'm crazy when it comes to stuff like, for instance, last Christmas Eve, my son sang with Ryan's youth chorus of Kansas City. He sang for their Christmas Eve special for the Chiefs game. Anyway, for the rehearsal before that, I asked someone to record it of my son because it was in Kansas City and I couldn't be there for that. It's so far away from where I'm at. And then what I did was I went over the entire video and I specifically
sat him down,
splice everything, but I did put everything on there, everything that went well and everything that didn't go well. And I put commentary on it, just like text and stuff. And because I wanted to make sure everything got fixed. And I do that now with students as well. Anything that could be perceived as, okay, this could be an issue, they definitely know it. And I try to do a good job informing them of the things they do well as well. But I love the approach because you're exactly right. People want to hear themselves being good at something. They're going to listen. I know I would do that personally. If someone sent me just the highlights of my own personal choir, like choir that I conduct, I would listen to that over and over and over, and I would be so into it. You're not going to obsess about things that are wrong. You're going to want to try to avoid that for your dear life because no one wants to hear themselves in an awkward position, but you want to hear the good stuff all the time. I think that's an excellent way to go. A super healthy way to go about that.
Yeah, and if they're not really, if a kid's new to my group, they can't yet perceive how good their choir is going to get. Like I know what the end of the year is going to look like when they get their recordings. But a kid that just got in there, every day is the best rehearsal they've ever had in their whole entire life. Like, so if I were to send them a video that I'm like, ooh, I hear things that they don't necessarily hear, and it will whatever thing I find inexcusably bad about a rehearsal moment, just a chord, they don't hear it as cringe. Just like 5 years ago, the recordings that I obsessed over then, I rarely would obsess over now, because I hear things now with the developed ear that I didn't hear back then. And I thought they were perfect. I thought they were perfect recordings. But if I send kids things that I find a little glitchy, they will probably be still obsessed with it, because for them, it's the best they've heard themselves do. They don't hear all those little things. And so they will memorize things that I don't like, weird vowels, things that I haven't yet fixed.
I just love the psychology of rehearsal. That's what I think is fascinating too. It's all about the psychology of rehearsal for you. It's about these processes. And I want to say to all the listeners out there, I think, so the thing I'm taking away more than anything, and I've known some of this, we didn't even get into like yellow, purple, and blue. That'll be for another day. But the thing that I'm taking away really is, because I'm obsessive over listening to recordings. Are you? Yes, you know, I literally excuse myself, like at Southwest ACDA, I excuse myself from dinner just so I could listen in the corner to a recording of something. I was like, ooh, okay. And I'm listening, critiquing it, and just taking it all in. I think if every director did this simple process, you would all have better choirs. Simply make a compilation of the things they do well, put it together, send it out to your students. Adrian is 100% correct. I know this as a fact, because whenever students do well, they always want the recordings of stuff. Send them that compilation. They will listen to it. They will obsess over it, and they will continue to do those things. What an amazing way to positively affirm.
And randomly one day, they will get the whole piece. But they are so over the moon for a 10-second clip of an amazing moment. And they're also okay if I don't have anything to send them yet. The rehearsal's a positive space. Everything's a process. And also, if I go multiple rehearsals without getting a good recording, the piece is so out the door. I misprogrammed. Goodbye. Okay, it's not good. Songs that I really, really, really love. If it takes honestly, if it takes more than a rehearsal to be able to send them a clip, you picked the wrong piece. You should be able to have a moment that signals to you that you got something here. Like this is the one.
What we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have you back.
I want to come back.
We want you back here again. We just want to keep having episodes with you so we can get into this stuff, because I think there's so much to unpack here. Yeah. But so much that's just helpful to hear. I think it's wonderful.
I think the one last thing you have to talk about is your SWACDA outfit, and that's the last thing we got to talk about.
I love that Danny mentioned there's no simple answer with Adrian. Like everything's a process, because lo and behold, there is a process for the outfit. Okay, it's not just I didn't just find something. So you can work the algorithms. This is like a real thing, okay? With Facebook, Facebook wants you to look at nothing but Facebook. Instagram, the same. And it's the algorithms, the AI's job to make sure that you keep swiping. And so if you stare at an ad on Facebook of soap, for even on accident, if someone asks you a question and your phone stayed on a soap ad, you're going to see soap a couple more times that day. And that can develop into personalities. That can develop into how people vote. You know, algorithms are designed to keep you staring at the screen. So I wanted to be inspired by what attire could be out there. So I used long drawn out sentences in Google first. And I said, this is a long time ago, before I worked my algorithm on Facebook. I went to Google and I said, I want long sleeves, arm tails, formal, black, men's, sassy, glitter attire, like really, really long descriptive words. And then I would find a picture that I liked. I looked at the brand, and then I searched that brand in Facebook. Now I'm looking at the thing. That day, the algorithm sent me another one. And now every time I see a modern, unique, quirky outfit that could be pulled off on stage without drawing too much attention, I intentionally, even if I don't really like that outfit, but I like the designer, I intentionally stare it at a little longer than everything else, and then I'll swipe forward to continue my Facebook nothingness, so that the algorithm keeps pumping out things that I like. So whenever I like something, I screenshot it, and then I can't remember all these brands. There's millions of brands that are now like my style, like what I love. I screenshot it and I save it in an album on my phone called Shopping Brands. And because I can't remember, I mean, I've got 40 from just like since ACDA, because now I've got to re-up. I've got another thing in a couple of months. I've got 40 or so different brands that I've saved so that when I want to go actually pick something out, I know what to do. So like literally, it's just it's a whole album on my phone, item after item after item after item. And some of them are really, really, really wacky. Like this right here. Oh my God, can you imagine if I wore this fang necklace?
If you would have wore that today, I would be so happy. Would you not be happy?
I don't want it so bad. This collar, and like I really love the whole Dune look lately. Like I would wear this Dune outfit at a concert.
Yes.
I would wear a concert. These super cool pants, like the sky's the limit. I would walk out if they have something like concert black-ish. I would wear something like this. But I got all these brands. These are really cool sleeves. I want it to be unique so that my kids know they're special, because that also goes into it. Like they get really, they will practice more if they feel like they're really a part of something. The goal of the whole experience is for them to go home and get obsessed with this.
What's your budget on, the attire?
He wanted you to drop the number that you used for Southwest ACDA.
Yeah, Southwest ACDA, the whole entire thing was way more than what I normally do. It was just, I pieced it together over time. It was like $1,100. But this album, I purchased a thing and then I purchased another thing, and over time it just creates a bunch of stuff. But like, I mean, this shirt right here is really, really cool. It is $80. Like that's a fantastic $80 shirt. Okay. But not all fancy, cool clothes. Like, look at that jacket. Are you kidding me? Not all cool, fancy clothes are expensive, but with clothes, you do get what you pay for when you wash it and stuff. I'm really big into, I have to be, I can't be too warm on stage. I sweat, and I've made the mistake of picking like a really cute lavender shirt, and then my back looked like the entire dark eggplant state of Argentina.
Swamp back.
It was so gross. In all the videos, I can't post any of them. I mean, it is so repulsive.
The entire eggplant state of Argentina?
Oh, it went from lavender to the eggplant color.
Got it.
Okay.
Understand.
Like I had beautiful light purple arms and like dark purple sweat bag on
in the shape of Argentina
that I love. Yeah, and those, if you see recordings of my choir singing like with like a slideshow of photos, it is from that event. That is what it's from. I put photos instead of the video.
So now it's time to shout out our next sponsor, the Treble Classroom.
Yes, the Treble Classroom is a website helping music educators find quality resources quickly to create lesson plans more effectively. Dab. Many music teachers find themselves at schools with small budgets and may be one of the only music teachers in their district. The Treble Classroom exists to help bridge the gap and equip teachers with resources to inspire their students.
The website is managed by our good friend and colleague, Taylor Schaefer. Taylor is an award-winning master educator and clinician, so make sure to visit thetrebleclassroom.com, where you can get access to various resources for the classroom, including warm-ups, rounds, books, apps, curriculum, and repertoire.
Thank you again to the Treble Classroom for sponsoring this portion of today's episode.
And if you or your company would be interested in sponsoring future episodes for the Choir Guys, please reach out to us on social media or email us at thechoirguyspod@gmail.com. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of The Choir Guys. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to The Choir Guys channel so you can know when new episodes are coming out. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Once again, The Choir Guys is brought to you by GIA Publications and Walton Music. Make sure to browse their website before programming music for your next concert.
You can follow the show on all social media at The Choir Guys Pod. To catch bonus content throughout the week, feel free to message us through these platforms if you want to hear us talk about something specific on the show.
Thanks, Adrian, for being our special guest. This is not helping with my obsession. I feel like I'm more obsessed now.
We're going to have to have you
Once again,
back.
it keeps getting higher and higher. Yes, absolutely. Also, tune in next time for a discussion regarding conference submission recordings.
Thanks for watching, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye.